This is a Tropical Storm Arthur upgraded here at 11 o'clock from the National Hurricane Center. This makes it the first named storm system of 2026 in the Atlantic. Now, regardless if it's being named or not, and now it is becoming that first named storm system, this forecast hasn't changed too much from what we were saying earlier on today. Low pressure center right near a Galveston area, and if we zoom in on the satellite imagery, you kind of have that circulation right in there. It really is lopsided. It's got a lot of shear interacting on it, but it looks like the National Hurricane Center is saying those winds are high enough that at 40 miles per hour, making it a low-end tropical storm. But the big thing still is the rainfall. We've already seen serious flooding across the Texas coastline. Events around the World Cup there in Houston have even been canceled. Not the game itself, but events in the area, bringing that heavy rainfall. We have seen that localized flooding, and all of this is slowly going to shift towards the east. Now, with this being a tropical storm, we've already had tropical storm warnings in place once it became a potential tropical cyclone. Tropical storm warnings there across the Louisiana coastline. You can see as we're talking right there, looks like we did just get an update from Galveston out towards Lake Charles area along the coast, now under a tropical storm warning. Tropical storm watch is in place for Galveston area, but with all this shifting towards the east, I wouldn't be surprised if it shifts along the Louisiana coastline and further off towards the north and east there. We take a look at where this is heading now. Tropical storm Arthur as of 11 a.m. pulling towards the north and east with eastern areas of Texas kind of getting some of the worst of the weather there all the way out towards Mississippi. Now, you might notice, though, the center line kind of passes right over Atlanta, but it looks like the worst of the weather is going to be just kind of south and east of that due to the lopsided nature of this storm system. We can see that here with our future cast as we roll through the rest of the day here on Wednesday. By Wednesday night, it pretty much already passing over the New Orleans area, so this is not a long storm. In fact, I am a little surprised it did get upgraded, but this would have been the last possible time for this to be upgraded because it's already moving on shore, and then we're going to start to see it really kind of bring that messy weather across Mississippi, Alabama, and then it begins to kind of get hooked by an upper level low towards the north, which could help fuel up maybe some thunderstorms and a bit of a squall line there across parts of Alabama and then into Georgia through Thursday and into Friday morning, eventually closer to the Jacksonville area. By Friday morning through midday, we could be looking at some showers and thunderstorms somewhat associated with this storm system. Looking at the severe weather threat, though, you look at the broader portion of the country, we do have a unusual high amount of severe weather across the Midwest. And now, separately with the tropics, we are looking at this showers coming on shore. You could get a little bit of friction. We do have a little bit of shear, and then that dry air that's wrapping around the backside of it, kind of matching up with it, could produce some severe thunderstorms and maybe even some rotation at times. Anytime we have a landfalling tropical system, that right side of the storm can produce tornadoes, usually weaker and fast moving, and that's often a big issue with something like this. So yeah, something to keep in mind too. If you're out there or you know anybody along the Gulf Coast, there is a bit of a tornadic threat for those specific areas, but at least a severe weather chance with some stronger thunderstorms and of course that heavy rainfall, and all that does eventually shift off towards the east. So the rain being a big issue here, and some spots could see in Mississippi over a foot of precipitation, as well as there in Louisiana. And Jacksonville, we're not going to see anything like that, but I think we're still got all that humidity. Afternoon thunderstorms going to continue to kick up through here Wednesday, Thursday, and into Friday. So not directly associated with our storm system, but indirectly all that moisture flow and eventual thunderstorms coming in from the west. By the way, if you're out, if you know anybody, maybe watching some of the games here in Houston, today Portugal is taking on the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And it does look like cloudy, humid, and yes, storms will be in the area for that. So just something to keep in mind, even if you're watching the game on TV. Now, the game is inside of a dome. So it's not going to be directly impacted, but already I have seen some kind of fan events around the Houston area canceled due to those storms out there. So it could have some kind of side effects. This is right in line where our average named storm systems do form up in the month of June. Sea surface temperatures are definitely warm enough into the mid 80s, but we do have a little bit of shear that's been kind of interacting with this and causing it to kind of stay somewhat weak. So we're not expecting this to rapidly develop any stronger than where it is at this moment. But that's a look at, our storm system right now here in the tropics. What we're going to do, though, is let's toss to this package from our meteorologist Lee Southwick about, on average, when do we see our first named storm system and how it does kind of line up with now Tropical Storm Arthur. So, yeah, I'll leave you with that. Our now newly named Tropical Storm Arthur here, formed just off of the coastline of Texas, and it is shifting towards the east here. No longer potential Tropical Cyclone 1, but yeah, Tropical Storm Arthur there. Now winds of 40 miles per hour. All right, I'll toss it over to Lee.
Let's talk about the beginning dates for certain types of storms, tropical storms, hurricanes, and major hurricanes. On average, we get our first named storm on June 20th. Now, of course, hurricane season starts June 1st. You can get storms even earlier than that. But when we take a 30-year average from 1991 to 2020, on average, we have had our first named storm on June 20th. And that is on average a tropical storm because we don't get our first hurricane on average until August 11th. And then our first major hurricane, which is a category 3, 4, or 5, that on average happens in September 1st. So let's talk more about these, not just the first, but the second and third as well. So as we said, our first named system is usually on average around June 20th, the second one, July 17th, and the third one, August 3rd. So if you look at hurricanes and notice that our first one usually occurs on August 11th, that means that all of our first 3 named storms are usually tropical storms. But of course, this is not the case every year. Again, we're just talking about averages. So on average, our second hurricane happens around August 26th. And our third hurricane usually happens around September 7th. Our major hurricanes, which again, category 3, 4, or 5, first happens around September 1st. Our second one happens around September 19th. And our third one usually occurs around October 28th. And by the way, just speaking of averages, we on average only have 3 major hurricanes a season. Again, that's category 3, 4, or 5. So let's talk about average first named storms. So the A storm, which is the first storm, June 20th, B storm, the second, as we said, July 17th, and the C storm, the third storm, August 3rd. The fourth storm, the D named storm, that happens around August 15th. And our E storm around August 29th. And by the way, August 29th is a big day to remember in hurricane history. We've had some really big storms on August 29th, and they're not always the E storm, but again, we're just talking about averages. Take a look at this map. This is showing you where all of the A storms have formed since the 2000s. And these are their paths, but they're areas of origin. We see a lot of it down in the Caribbean and the Gulf, and a lot off the coast of Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. And so this is typical because June, we usually see an area of formation in the Caribbean and the Gulf, but notice that we have also had some systems move off of Africa and move across the Atlantic. So it's just a reminder that these storms really can form anywhere, and we will of course be watching it for you as we head through hurricane season. Just on average, those are the areas that we see our first named storm. Here's a quick look at our 2026 Atlantic tropical cyclone names. Our first named storm of this year will be Arthur, then Bertha, and then Cristobal, Dolly, Edward, Faye, and Gonzalo. Remember, we will always be here watching it for you, and we will always bring you updates on the tropics. I'm meteorologist Lee Southwick. First Coast News on your side.